Welcome to the Eviva Experience, a podcast about your emotional and mental health without the doom and gloom. Hi there, I'm Sarah Tuckett and I'm a somatic psychotherapist and dance movement therapist based in Brisbane. Let's get on with the show. What is this somatic sorcery, people ask me? Well, it's nothing to do with witchcraft and a whole lot to do with your body, your muscles, and your nervous system. There's a whole lot of information out there on social media. Some of it is really good and some of it's absolute horse shit. So I would love to help you understand exactly what somatic therapy is and also what it isn't. So the name. Somatic comes from the Greek word soma, which just means relating to the body or affecting the body. So in the very simplest of terms, somatic therapy or somatic psychotherapy combines talking about your stuff with an equal awareness about what's going on below the neck. So this might become aware of your posture or your eye gaze or the sensations you feel inside your body. Movements, desires to move, gestures, anything like that. What we're trying to do is increase the connection between your body and your mind. And this is because it's really easy to cut off everything below our neck. We ignore, we push through, and then we fall in a heap. So what we're doing is a form of mindfulness. We're aiming to increase that connection, listening to your body. The first question people often ask is, what is somatic psychotherapy good for? So like everyday counselling or talk therapy, somatic therapy is good for people who want some form of support for what they're going through in life. Things that are affecting their emotional or mental well-being. Anxiety, depression, stress, relationship issues, a sense of overwhelm, whether that's about your job or parenting or your relationship. Grief. Trauma is a big one, whether that's single event trauma, PTSD, or what we call complex trauma, which is where someone has endured trauma for a longer time. So a good example of this would be neglect in childhood or childhood abuse. Chronic pain and autoimmune diseases are other things that somatic psychotherapy is often quite helpful for because we are working with the body, not just with your thinking. The reason that somatic psychotherapy is helpful in processing trauma is because it focuses on your nervous system state. And when we have experienced trauma, we often get stuck in one of those states like fight or flight or fawn, which is people pleasing. The trauma becomes stuck in the body. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's a very famous book by Bessel van der Kolk, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And that's exactly what he's talking about there, is the trauma becoming stuck in the body because the body hasn't been able to mobilize or complete the experiences that it wanted to in the time of trauma. So what we want to do is help the body and mind safely and gently process and release the trauma when it feels ready to. So what might somatic psychotherapy look like? Okay, so the first thing I always want to do is help you gain an awareness of your nervous system state and gain some flexibility in that nervous system so that you can get into a heightened state when you really need to, when your body needs you to protect yourself, and then calm down again when it is safe and appropriate to rest. So an example might be, I'm always running late, so I might get into a heightened state, running out the door, running down to the bus stop. And then when I get on the bus, I'm like, oh, thank God, I made it. And I can start to settle again. Some people can't do that. They are stuck in a heightened state, or paradoxically, stuck in a state of freeze or shutdown. And we don't want that. We want you to be in what we call your window of tolerance, which is where you can go up and down as needs be and return to this rested state. So we work on nervous system regulation in your session. You might talk about something that heightens you, and then we do these techniques, these polyvagal techniques, these soothing techniques to help you calm and down-regulate your nervous system again, so that you and your nervous system know that you can get heightened and then you can come back down again. So you have more flexibility in your nervous system response. The second thing we work on is resourcing you, helping you become more resilient by becoming aware of the strengths that you already have, because sometimes we don't even realize they're strengths, and also those calming, regulating techniques that I've talked about above, that you now then have in your tool belt to help you out when shit goes down. Now, when we're working with trauma, we don't just dive in and go, here's the big traumatic event, let's talk about it. That would overwhelm you. We don't want that. So what we do is a technique called pendulation. Think of one of those old grandfather clocks with a big pendulum. It swings one way and then it swings the other. So we swing one way to kind of touch the edge of the trauma, and then you swing back again to safety. And that safety might be you and me doing a calming technique. We might even need to step outside my office, get some fresh air, notice the sun on our skin, notice the birds, notice the traffic. We're bringing you back to the present time. So it's like we have an escape route. We can take a tiny peek at the trauma and then swing back away to safety. Another way of thinking about it is titration. So it has nothing to do with school chemistry. What it is about is recalling small amounts of the trauma, manageable amounts at a time. So just like a chemist would add very small amounts of a substance to a solution to see what the effect is, that's what we're doing in somatic therapy. We're just looking at small bites. We don't want you to blurt out the whole event and then feel dreadful, as I said before. So here's an example. Say someone had a car accident. We don't want to talk about the main event because I don't want someone to go back into a trauma state. So we go in sideways. We might talk about what it's like for you to see cars on the street. Can you get in an Uber? Can you drive now? Can you touch a car handle? Going in sideways and noticing your reactions and processing your nervous system reactions and your emotions as we go through that. So people often ask me, what do we do in these somatic therapy sessions? What's it going to look like? Well, let me explain to you. Like any therapy session, we're going to talk because we're human, and that's largely how we think we communicate. But then we're also going to observe the other 80%, the non-verbal communication. So sensations in your body that you become aware of when I ask you what's going on for you in your body, what you're aware of, what you're experiencing. Your posture might have changed. Your eye contact might have changed. You might be staring into space as you recall something. Gestures, desires to move. All of this stuff is vital information. So often we will do movements or gestures or breathing techniques to help you down-regulate your nervous system. So I said getting you back into what we call that window of tolerance so that you feel better. And you might have heard of the vagus nerve because it's all over social media, and there's all sorts of calming gestures and movements and breathing exercises that we can do to help you feel safe again, because the vagus nerve is all about, am I safe or am I not safe? That's the simplest way of explaining it. So we are working with that nerve response to your external environment and your internal environment, your sensations, your thoughts, your emotions. And sometimes we follow those impulses to move, to get away, to push, to run, to yawn, to curl up into a ball, hug a giant cushion. And at other times, we consciously bring awareness to your breath and deepen it. And when we move the body, when we expand our rib cage, when we move our diaphragm and stretch it, often memories and thoughts, emotions, images, things that we've been kind of holding down, because often we brace with our body. Often these things will start to bubble up from your unconscious mind. And then we can talk about that and help you make sense of it, help make meaning of it. So that, hopefully in a nutshell, is what somatic therapy is. So Here's what somatic psychotherapy isn't. It's not woo-woo. Sometimes clients will say to me things like, yeah, I just wanted to try something, a little bit out there. And I kind of like giggle internally because I'm like, you cannot get any less woo than working with your physical body, your muscles, your respiratory system, and your nervous system. There is nothing more grounded than working with your body as well as your mind. So that's number one. And the second one, and this is a big thing, is that somatic therapy, somatic psychotherapy is not a magic wand. It is not the magic pill. It can be really tempting to see something on social media and be like, oh my God, this is finally the thing. This is the thing that's going to help me. It's going to make all my pain and suffering go away. And look, I hear you. You're suffering and you want your pain to end, and I want to help you. But I need you to understand the somatic therapy tools are brilliant. The techniques are great. Working with your body is optimum. But what is more important than all of these techniques and tools, all these newfangled things, is the relationship between you and me. That matters more. We are wounded in relationship and we heal through relationship. These techniques are great, but relationship matters more. We need other humans to co-regulate us sometimes. Self-regulation is great, independence is great, autonomy is great, but we need other people. We're not designed to live in a vacuum. Most people are chronically unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. So therapy is about rectifying that, making you feel really felt, making you feel seen and understood, and making you feel like you belong. That's a huge thing. So yes, somatic therapy is fabulous, but it is not the panacea that perhaps people on social media are alluding to. The therapeutic relationship between me and you is what heals, and these tools are just something we use to facilitate that. My final thought is make sure that your therapist is properly qualified. Don't put your mental health in the hands of an unqualified person. A good way to see if someone is properly qualified is to look on the associations for that industry. So here in Australia, that's PACFA and ACA, the two main counselling and psychotherapy peak bodies. And I'll put a link to them below this podcast. I hope that this has helped you understand exactly what this somatic sorcery is all about and how it might help you in your life. See you on the next podcast. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I have a question for you. How do you want to feel today? Powerful, playful, or present? Download my free guide, Feel Your Va-Va-Voom in 60 seconds, and find out how. Bye.